Hey guys, it's Sam Limon back again with another tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be working on our personal photo touch-up. This project follows the touch-up photo project that we did where we restored 12 images, I believe. So this time we're going to find one of our personal photos. So this could be, try to search out photos from family members if you have any old photos of yourself, of your parents, grandparents. The more damaged, the better, and we're just gonna go ahead and touch it up and do a really good job with it. Um, if you do not have any personal photos like that, I am gonna provide a few for you, and then you could choose as you wish, and then we'll go ahead and touch those up. So from the very beginning, this is the file that you guys will download from Schoology, so I already have it here, so I'll put it up in whatever week we're in. So at this point, I'm just going to open up my working folder, and I'm going to bring this file in. So let's pretend you downloaded it, and now we're going to put it into our working folder. So let's go ahead and unzip it, personal touch-ups, and there's a series of images that I put in there, just in case you don't have any. So feel free to choose one, or if we have time, you might be able to knock out a couple of these, and let's fix them all up. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose one. Go ahead and choose this one. So the damaged JPEG. So I'm gonna go to File, Open, and I'm gonna navigate to my correct folder. So it's Personal Touch-Up and damaged JPEG. So let's go ahead and open that one. So first things first, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make a copy of this layer. That way I have reference to what I fixed. Once we're done, we have this original one. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a copy of it. And on this one, I'm just gonna name it main. You can name it anything you want. And then let's go ahead and examine it a little bit before we start going into any edits. So we have, this missing piece in this area. We have a whole lot of cracks. Some of them go into the face, they're in the background, they're everywhere. So let's go ahead and, take care of all these issues. And once we're done with it, we're gonna add a little bit of color, to bring it back to life, make it look like it's a color photograph. And we're gonna, do a really good job. Take our time, really focus on all these areas, make it look like all this damage was never there. So this will be a little time consuming, but we could get it done using all the tools that we learned in the past. So from this point, I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna use a spot healing brush tool just to start it off. And I'm gonna go around and take care of all these spots, all the cracks. So there will be some parts of the video that I fast forward just because it's very repetitive. A lot of this is very similar work, but you get the idea. So I'm just gonna take my time with it and fix up all these areas. Now in certain areas such as this where we have the eyebrow, what we could do is take our clone stamp tool, and we could sample a little bit of this area and bring it in. Sample a little bit of this, bring it in. So it's going to be a mix and match of tools to try to get all this correct. We could also use our patch tool, get this area, get a nice little blend going. And we could also use the smudge tool to bring the strength down, very low amount, and we could start smudging certain areas together. Be careful with this one, you don't want to go overboard because then you start losing, it starts looking a little bit blurry. Then right here we could clone in a little bit of that eye, of the other eye, so I'll bring some of that in. Yeah, might undo that. Doesn't look too good. I'm just gonna clone a little bit of this iris, the black area of the eye. Trying to make that circle a little bit better. And I am gonna clone the little highlight of the eye and then blend that in. Okay, so for the sake of the tutorial, I just edited her face, took care of all those cracks, all those photograph cracks. Obviously we're gonna have to go in here, do everything else, work on the guy, but I just want to show you where we could get to. So here's a before and here's the after. So I turn off that main layer, turn it back on, so you see we get a pretty decent image. So now let's go ahead and colorize it. Let's pretend we took care of everything. We did all of our work. Everything's nice and clean, like our faces. And then, so what we could do now is, let's go ahead and add a levels adjustment. Let's go ahead and make, pump up the darks a little. Whoops, sorry, up here. Make the darks a little bit darker, make the lights a little bit lighter. So that'll make the image pop. Now I want to get rid of this whole like sepia tone, so let's go ahead and add a black and white adjustment layer. And then right here, again, if you wanted to, you could bump up the reds, make them a little bit darker, the yellows, make them a little darker. Let's say the blues, there wasn't a whole lot of blues in this image, but you could, bump these up. Depending on where you want them. So here's the before and after with both the levels adjustment and then the black and white adjustment layer. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and colorize the image. So let's think about different areas. So we're gonna have skin tones, and we're gonna have maybe some reds for the lips, maybe a certain eye color, whatever eye color you want to do. Maybe we want a color over the background and a few different layers for their clothing. So let's mostly focus on her at the moment. So we're gonna go ahead and do a a hue and saturation adjustment layer. And let's go ahead and do colorize. And let's try to find like a skin tone. So something like that. So skin tones are going to be like in the maybe oranges, reddish, something like that. And we could always come back and edit this. So that's the good thing about these adjustment layers. So maybe that's a little too red. Let's push it more there. And now I'm going to call this good. So then what we want to do is we want to completely hide this layer. So I'm going to first of all, I'm going to make sure my foreground color is in black. If it isn't, just click on that one, drag it down and left or down and right. And then if we do Option or Alt and delete, that's going to hide this layer that we just made. Now what we want to do is we want to take a brush. So I'm just going to freehand this, or you could make a selection of like her neck area up into her face. But I'm just going to roughly do this with the brush. I'm going to make sure my brush is set at 100%, and I'll do a hardness of 0. So it's a soft brush. So I'm going to go ahead and paint in her face. I'm going to make sure my foreground color is white. So I'm going to switch them with these little arrows here. And now it should start painting that skin tone color. So remember, we're painting on the mask, so let's say we overshoot it. We could always switch these back or press X, the letter X, and then go back and hide this. And then press X again, so we're loaded up with white, and then go back into painting the skin tones. So I could tell it's a little too orange, so we could go back and adjust it. But for now, let's go ahead and paint all this. And the reason why I want a soft brush is because I want, you know, some of those edges to go out into slightly, just feather into what's going to be her hair, or what's going to be the background, or her dress. So I got the main basic outline. So if I hold Option or Alt and I press on the layer mask, I could see where I'm painting. So now I could really go in, paint, and target, make sure I didn't miss any areas. See, like all these little spots, they're hard to tell when you're actually masking, but when you're in this mode, you could tell what's showing and what is not. So good little trick. This is what you could use as well to check out, you know, anybody's masking and make sure that they did a good job. So then if I hold Option or Alt and click on the layer mask again, we see we are good. I'm gonna zoom in a little, get a little bit of a smaller brush, maybe go down to like a 20 about, and then I'm gonna hit X to switch to a black color on my brush. And then I noticed I went a little too far here. I'll paint that back right here. Just take care of these little problem areas. You know, we want it to blend in a little bit, but not too much. So there we are. This all looks pretty good, pretty good. And then I want to mask away the eyes, because then we're going to come back and add some color to these as well. So make sure I'm on my black brush. Make sure hardness is 0. It should be set because I was just working on that. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Now again, if we want to double check that mask, hold Option or Alt and click on the mask and see we missed these little spots. Let's go ahead and get those. Click on that again, maybe a little more here. So now she's starting to get some color. So we could always double click and then go into our properties, and you know, maybe we could saturate it a little bit less, you know, maybe a little bit lighter or something. And there, so that starts looking a little bit more realistic. Let's go ahead and give her just randomly like a burgundy shirt or dress, whatever she's wearing. So again, we're going to make a new adjustment layer. This one, again, it's going to be hue and saturation. Let's go ahead and hit colorize. And let's go ahead and find us a really nice burgundy. So maybe all the way to the left here. Let's saturate it a bit. Maybe make it a little bit dark. And go ahead and hit Option or Alt and delete. And again, we're going to do the same step with the brush. Make sure we are in white. So I'm going to switch these and make it a bigger brush. Or what I could do also, instead of doing this, actually, I could get my pen tool or any other selection tool, and I could just go around and choose the dress as well. So you could either freehand the selection, or like with the brush that I was doing on her whole skin tone areas, or I could just do this, create a selection myself. I'm literally just clicking and dragging to make these curves. Now, here's where his chest comes in, so I'm gonna, bring this down. Then go ahead and connect these, and I'm gonna right click, and then I'm gonna make it a selection. I want it to feather just a little bit, so I'm gonna click 1 for the feather radius and click OK. And now if I click on my brush tool, make my brush really big, and I can start brushing all this in. Again, hold Option or Alt and click this just to make sure. Yep, we got everything. Well, we missed a little bit here. Not much. So we could deselect now, so Command or Control D, and then hold Option and click on your layer mask. So now we have that. So now let's go ahead and put some color on her lips. So it's gonna be red, but obviously not this red or burgundy. So we're gonna have to do a different layer adjustment for that. So and we're just gonna repeat this process. So we could do the color adjustment again. Sorry, the hue and saturation. And let's colorize this. This one we're focusing on the lips. Maybe we want it somewhere around there. We could always come back and change it. If we hold Option or Alt and make sure we're on our layer mask, and actually Command Delete. If Option or Alt and Delete if that doesn't work, go ahead and do Command Delete. One of them works for the foreground color, one of them works for the background color. So it depends on which color where you're at. So one is for one. Option Delete is for our foreground color, and Command Delete is for our background color, which is black. And let's go ahead and zoom into her lips. We could have got rid of her skin tone on the skin tone layer, but we'll just go ahead and leave it on, and hopefully it doesn't interfere. If not, we could always go back and mask it out if you wanted to. So let's go ahead and grab our brush, make sure we're on white, which we are, 100% opacity, and let's start painting in her lips. So there we go. That's starting to look a little more realistic. And now let's think about her eye color. What eye color do we want? So let's go ahead and add another hue and saturation layer. And let's go ahead and give her like some blue eyes. Somewhere around there. Again, we're going to do Command Delete because we want to target the black color in our color picker, the background color. If we do Command Delete, that'll delete that, and then we could start brushing in with the brush, make sure we're on white, and we could start coloring this in. Now let's say that's too blue. I could always go back and, make it a little bit darker and make it a little less saturated. Maybe a little lighter, something like that. There we go. And let's go ahead and just add a hint of brown to her hair. Her hair looks mostly black, but you know, obviously hard to tell. So we're gonna add a little bit of brown tint to it. So again, let's do another one. Use saturation, colorize it, and this time we're gonna find a brown, make it a little dark. And again, Command Delete, get our brush, a little bit bigger. Obviously, if we have a big brush, when we get close to, you know, the edge of her actual face or skin tones, maybe make the brush a little smaller so that you don't get too much of that like overspray of brown coming up into her face. And I'm thinking this looks a little too brown, so I'm gonna go back and change it and make it just a little bit darker. And obviously here we don't want to go into his face at all, so we're gonna make the brush a little smaller once we get to his face. So once we are here, I'm using my bracket keys. Let me double check it. I missed a few spots. I double check by holding Option or Alt and clicking on that mask layer. So I target all these pieces that I missed. We want to make sure we do that. Anything like that that doesn't show, if this ever goes to print, those areas are going to have a color or be missing a color or whatever, and you would be able to notice. So it's a good idea to make sure your masks are all pretty good. So let's go ahead and change this again. We're going to go darker and not as saturated. So there we go. And you want to change our eye color again, so let's go ahead and do this one. Maybe something like that, maybe something a little more brownish, hazelish, make them a little bit lighter. And now if you really wanted to, we could add, you know, the whites of the eyes, because right now they just don't have any color, it's black and white. So what we could do is eyes, for the most part, the whites, they have like those little veins, so they look a little bit reddish, so we could add a slight hint of red, not too much. We do not want to overdo it. So let's go ahead and add another one, another adjustment layer. So hue, saturation, we're gonna go whoops, let's see, let's put this on top. Hue, saturation, okay, colorize this, and see, that's a red, so that's pretty much the same one we had for the lips. So let's go ahead and go with that one, just to make our, I'm doing Option Delete, or sorry, Command Delete. Let's go ahead and use that one. It's going to be way too much, but then we'll go ahead and go back in and turn it down a bit. So it's good when the colors are pushed up like this, because then we could see what we're doing, so we could see our mask. And we could zoom out a bit, and let's go ahead and turn that down. So let's go ahead and make it lighter and way less saturated. So this is very subtle. Let's hide a little bit of this. But that adds a little bit of color and a little bit of lightness, so it pops a little more. So not the best looking eye, because we did a lot of fixing there. And you can tell now a little bit more with the color. But there we go, that's a little bit of, you know, skin tones and all that. And then now what we could do is we could select, let's say, a background. So let's add another hue and saturation layer. We're going to colorize this, and let's go ahead and make it like It's like magenta color, like a light purple. And I'm gonna fill in the whole background with this. So again, we can make a selection around the people. We can make a, you know, just freehand it like I'm doing. Make sure you don't do it, you know, at this view. Make sure you zoom in quite a bit, and you make sure you're targeting all these areas. Leave nothing black and white. And you could always go ahead and go check your masks to make sure you are getting all this. Let's just pretend he was colorized and add some here. Now I'm thinking, now that I look at it, maybe these edges were a little sharp for her dress, compared to, you know, how fuzzy the rest of the image is. So we could always go ahead and you know, come back and feather that out if we wanted to. So if I click on her dress layer, I could go ahead and, you know, feather this out. Click X to show it, to show the mask, things like that. So that gives a little bit of a more of a blend effect, especially around here once his colors come in. And now let's say maybe her dress is a little too bright compared to everything else, so you know, I could always tone it down just a little bit, just to make it look more realistic. And there you have it. So that's a mixture of, you know, editing, you know, doing the photo retouch, as well as adding some color to the image. So there you have it. Yeah, go ahead and do this to one of them, or do it to your main image. And once you're done, we'll go ahead and print these out and turn in before and after. So on this one, says it's horizontal. Let's go ahead and get that set up actually. Let's go ahead and do, let's pretend this one was done. So we're gonna do File, Save As, and I'm gonna save it as a PSD. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close this one, and since it's horizontal, I'm gonna do a vertical page 8.5 by 11, and then I'm gonna put the before and after on top and bottom. So I'm gonna go to File, New, and then I'm gonna go to Print, select 8.5 by 11 letter. Make sure my resolution is 300. RGB, let's go ahead and bring in CMYK color. Click Create. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and go to File, Open, and I'm gonna find first of all my original JPEG. Click Open, and I'm gonna go to File, Open, and open up my finished Photoshop file. And let's go ahead and open this one. So what I want to do is bring this one in. Get on my move tool, bring that in. Now on this one, actually what I want to do is, let's go ahead and close our edited Photoshop file. And let's go ahead and go to our Finder. And let's find this damaged Photoshop file, the PSD, and bring that one in, drag it in, and go ahead and hit return. So it places it as a smart object. So what I want to do now is do Command T, and let's like size them up, you know, appropriately. Bring them in like that. Now I could get both of these, so hold Shift and do Command T, and take up, you know, a big part of the space. You don't have to go all the way to the edges, you know, leave a little bit of white space. and roughly place them, and then give them a little bit of separation. So my damaged one, if I hold shift and bring it down, get this one, take it up, and then that way we have our before and after. So once you're done with this, go ahead and save this one. So go to File, Save As, save this one as a JPEG, and go ahead and save it. I didn't name it, so let me go File, Save As. Save it as a JPEG, and then let's go ahead and name it Personal Photo Touch Up, and then put your name on it. And go ahead and save it. Go ahead and make sure your image size, the quality is all the way at the highest, so drag it all the way to the right. If you do a high, that's fine. It's going to make it a little smaller. So anything between high and maximum, or if you drag it all the way to the right, it's really maximum. Then go ahead and click OK, and that saved the JPEG of both of them together in this format. Now if you notice, it still says Entitled 1. If you wanted to save this Photoshop file, you could do that as well. If not, you could just close it because you already have your main Photoshop file where we did all the color corrections and the editing. If you wanted to save it, just go to File, Save As. Find the name that you, let's see, Personal Photo. Just click on this, it'll take up the name, save it as a Photoshop file, and now you have the Photoshop file of it. Go ahead and close it, and let's just confirm in our folder. See, we have the Photoshop file for this, and then we have the JPEG, which is what you're going to turn into me. That's what we're going to print and review. And then we have obviously our individual, the image you received and the image you corrected. So once again, thank you very much. Reach out to me if you have any questions, and we'll see you on the next one.